bases dropped on a Friday morning, Freestyle Friday here at SDH, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is probably going to be the biggest whiplash of a show we've ever had. And saying that in 7 years of doing this, or in our 7th season of doing this, that's a lot of whiplash. Because here's the rundown. All right, obviously we've got news of the morning. We've got to talk about Chris Armas. We've got to talk about Everton. That's got to go down the line a little bit. Coming up in just a little bit, Dan Gish, the head coach of the Lewiston High Maine boys soccer team, is going to join us, and he might have players. Roster news for Atlanta United. Correct, Ricky. Yes, that is part of this as well. So you've got that. So Dan Gish coming up in just a little bit. We're going to hold him to 15 minutes because he's in school. He actually has things he has to do when it comes to high school. After that, hoping our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us at 9:30. I don't know who's won the toss. We'll find out soon if it's Greg or Parky. 10 o'clock might be where we shoehorn in all the news. And I'm thinking we might be going long today. So we've got the news we got to talk about. We got to talk about the roster moves for Atlanta United. You guys can talk about that in the Twitch pitch as well. You've got 10:15, Duane Rollins from 24th Minute. He's going to drop by to talk about everything involving the men's national team in Canada, everything going on with CF Montreal, everything going on with Toronto FC. He had a column suggesting the new head coach at CF Montreal, and that was what triggered me reaching out to Duane to find out about all the madness going on north of the border. So we got that to talk about. And we've also got 10:35, the last half hour of the scheduled 2. Bart Keeler dropping by for a Friday version of Reffing Down Here in Soccer Free USPOD because of what happened last night with the men's national team and their run against Trinidad and Tobago at Q2 in Austin. We'll talk about that. It was goalless for a really long time. Noah Powder gets a second yellow, so he's sent off down to 10. Trinidad and Tobago, they had a plan going in. They reemphasized the plan going in, but once Atlanta United, once the U.S. men's national team scores the first, they score 2 more, 3-0. We'll talk about that. Might have some reffing down here, and I think Maddy Crews may crash, morning, Alex, to determine what in the wide world of sports is going on here with everything and everybody. So, briefly, we have news with Atlanta United. Miles and Mateus Osechu listed out of contract. Club is in discussion with Miles. Options declined on Machop Chol, Clement Diop, and others. Yeah, Friday News Dump was alive and well. You ain't kidding. So, let's see. And I'm trying to figure out briefly if I can remains undecided on Shonday Silva's option. So literally it is going to be chasing the news this morning and trying to determine what we can talk about quickly, all of that kind of stuff that's around, available, and ready to go. So it is going to be probably one of the fastest 2 hours plus that we will have had in quite some time. So roster moves and all of that stuff going on. Briefly, looks like Colorado is pairing off with Chris Armas, and Everton got docked 10 points with their violations, according to the Premier League, about violating FFP. And it also appears that the clubs that have been relegated since then or shifted have are going to decide whether or not they are going to pursue legal action. So here's 18 players under contract for Atlanta United for 24. Club exercised the option on Aiden McFadden. 3 more players set to join the team January 1st. Those are the homegrowns. Declined options on 5 players, 6 others out of contract. Options from Machop, Jackson Conway, Clement Diop, Justin Garces, Efren Morales declined. Ozzy Alonso, Miguel Berry, Miles Robinson, Mateus Osechu, Amar Sadic, Quentin Westberg out of contract. Club remains in renewal negotiations with Morales, Robinson, Westberg. Loans for Juanjo Purata, Shonday Silva expired at the end of the calendar year. Club has declined the transfer option on Purata, yet to make a determination on Silva's transfer option. Barry, Chol, Conway, Garces, Purata, and Hosechu are eligible for the reentry draft. Alonzo, Diop, Robinson, Sadic, and Westberg eligible for free agency. Offseason begins Monday, December 11, with the trade window opening at 9 a.m. End-of-year waivers process begins December 12. Free agency December 13. Reentry process, stage 1, December 14th. So, of course, while I'm at the high school championships, that's when the offseason begins with the trade window opening, and we'll cover it as best we can. Players under contract, you've got 18, 1 option exercised with Aiden McFadden, 5 options declined, 6 out of contract. End of loan, Ezequiel Barco, Juanjo Purata, Shande Silva. So that's where we are with Atlanta United. And the chaos begins here on a Friday. Like I said, while we're waiting for Dan Gish, we'll get into the early comments here. It is Tom. Well, it's official. Absolutely blank the Premier League. Absolute shambles. May they all go straight to hell. Ricky, also on the end of loan, it says Barco's loan is over. Do we know if River's buying him? I think they are, from what I remember, that River is buying Ezequiel Barco. That is what I remember hearing, and that is what I have. That's like I said. I'm maintaining that is possible. So we have the roster moves from Atlanta United, and we are getting into all of that this morning. So it will be relative chaos, and we'll see how we can manage it here. This is like I said, probably this is one of the most whiplashy shows we've ever had, with all the guests coming in, and of course all of the news coming in as well. Honestly, I was going to play a little bit of the Christina Uncle interview that we had yesterday on the network at 10 o'clock. But considering all of the news that we've got to sift through, that is probably just going to roll over to the YouTube channel. If you haven't heard it, it was great to catch up with Christina yesterday from her time. She was in the Tampa Bay Sun offices, and we caught up with her and got to the lowdown about the why now, why not now, what it's like being a team president, all the integration, all those kinds of things, the USLS, and all those things. So I would recommend, if you haven't had the chance to listen to the Christina Uncle interview, please do. It was great stuff, and it was great to catch up with Christina to find out. Obviously, one of the busiest folks in TV right now is Christina Uncle, and literally we caught her and we sat her down for like 20 minutes, and it was a really cool conversation. Like I said, I was going to play like the first 5 to remind you to go back and listen to it over the weekend, but because of all the news this morning, I think I'm going to reserve the 10 o'clock segment for the beginning of hour number 2, so we can get caught up on all the news and go back over. Tom, bottom line, so how many roster spots do we have open currently, with more possible, of course, depending on Silva and Thiago, et cetera? So right now, Atlanta has 7, 18, 22. So what is that, 8? So with 22 available, you've got Luke Brennan joining on New Year's Day, and you've got a couple of homegrowns, and we will go from there. So hang on just a second. I've got to resend a link. All right, so direct email. All right, so we're efforting Coach Gish. Nothing like things starting to go haywire here on a busy day. So I'm sending an email to. We'll see what's going on. Okay, yeah, all right. They might have it. So this is nothing like live media, right? So like I said, we're efforting our friends from Lewiston, Maine, to hang out with us for about 15 minutes and see what's going on. Okay. So the beauty of the green room is that we got folks, and I can see what's going on as they're getting ready. And so we're going to go ahead and bring them in. Morning, Dan.
Morning.
Morning.
All right. So you brought friends. Who'd you bring with you this morning?
You want to introduce yourselves?
Mustafa Hassan, number 1.
Nasiba B. Mohammed Kabab.
Okay. And so, guys, first off, thanks for dropping by this morning, especially. Now, do I need to send a note to the front office saying it's okay for them to be out of class for 15 minutes? Because I don't want to get anybody in trouble now.
No, I've got passes that I'm going to fill out for them.
Okay. So I guess let me go with Coach with you first. First off, thanks for doing this, especially on a Friday morning. Have you had a chance? Has it sunk in, all of this with the whirlwind, all the folks like me reaching out to sit here and say, congratulations and all this kind of stuff? Has it sunk in yet that you were able to accomplish all of this with everything going on around you in the town?
Yeah. Like I said before, I don't think our feet have touched the ground. We're flying pretty high. And I was just telling these guys that, walking into school this morning, I actually had a second to think and look around, and it was just like, wow, we're really state champs. And it feels really good to see these guys accomplish the goal that they set when they were little guys. And they've always had this dream, and they've been through the battles, their freshman, sophomore, junior year, not getting what they wanted done. And we were just talking before we got on, like, they just peaked at the right time. And it's not always how you start, it's how you finish. And these guys were just a great team.
Fourth state title, 15, 17, and 18 from the run that you guys had there. And I'm just going to turn this into a party line. Anybody who wants to answer the question can answer the question. What has it been like for those of us who, might have been watching the news over the last couple of weeks and then seeing how things have gone there in Lewiston? What has it been like to be able to get together and come together the way that you guys have, as once again representing the community that you've always been? What's it been like to come together in a moment like this and come out with a state championship and give the folks something to think about? Anybody? Anyone?
It's been crazy, to be honest. I still can't believe it. But when we won, like, one of the fans, a friend, came up to me and said he finally did it. And that really, raised my spirits.
What's it like to have everybody, kind of look at the team as almost like a focal point to have spirits raised? What's it like to be able to do that for a town like Lewiston?
It feels amazing because when you're on the field, I felt like we were playing for them. And when we would score, you could hear the fans going crazy. And we would make jokes about, like, how we couldn't hear our coaches on the field because how loud it was. And, yeah, it was amazing to make them happy.
And one of the things and I'll recommend the book that One Goal that was put out a couple of years ago about the whole soccer community there. And it's a bunch of different nationalities coming together under one roof. And that's what we like to talk about with the sport of soccer, where, it doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter, what your house looks like, doesn't matter what car you drive. You all come together and you're right there as 11, and then whoever else is there for the starting 18. You get to come together toward a common goal. What's it like to have all of these different ideas and angles and nationalities and backgrounds come together to get that goal at the same time?
You want me to go? I can, just because, we have, kids from Angola, Kenya, Somalia, and kids that are French Canadian here, and it's just when they get on the field, they're brothers. And we had a kid, Tegra Mabele, that played striker for us and a little bit of midfield, and his brother Mishi. We would have kids translate, like Pedro would be on the sidelines just helping us communicate what we wanted him to do, whether it's, sending a through ball on the ground or, a deep line ball. We wanted to keep it low and away from the keeper, and are just transitioning and, defending. And guys just helped each other on the field. And these guys, it doesn't matter, where you're from, like you said, they all had one common goal, and, that they all loved each other. And, you have ups and downs in the season, you have ups and downs in games, and, it's just special because they all did it together. And we talked about it. We played at Camden one of our first games, and we won 4-2. And these guys know, and we show the world how we should treat each other and how we should get along.
And, Coach, you mentioned all of that. And, sadly, there are times where we have to grow up too soon. and you were surrounded by a roster that had to grow up too soon, part of a high school that had to grow up too soon, part of a town that had to grow up too soon. What's it been like to see all of these young men and students and student athletes face this kind of a challenge of growing up too soon and respond the way that they have, both on the field and off?
Yeah, you hear about mass shootings around the country, and you always think, that's never going to happen here. And it makes me sad that these guys had to, live through it. And, we go from an overtime win to making sure we all know where each other are at and making sure we're getting home okay. And, shelter in place orders. And, it's kind of heartbreaking. The innocence is gone. And there's a lot of mourning. We were just talking about, I have pictures in my office of former teams, and, we get one of the victims. His son played for us, and, we were sad for him. And, but these guys, they showed a lot of maturity. They really did. We couldn't practice for several days. And, despite we had like 30 something law enforcement agencies and 4 National Guard helicopters, I will not name anybody here, that might have snuck onto the field and got some extra passes. But nothing was going to keep them away. But, I think about when I was their age, I did the same thing. I would sneak into the gym or get onto the pitch and kick around maybe when I wasn't supposed to. And but it was all innocent. And I think it was a good stress relief for them to be together. And we finally got together on, that Monday, and it was nice, to be back together.
Lewiston wins a high school title in Maine. Dan Gish, the head coach, and a couple of players hanging out with us here on the morning show. So, guys, let me ask you this. Mustafa, Mo, Nej, let me ask you this. Are you guys closer now than you were maybe even a month ago because of what's been going on there in the community, both on the field and off?
We've always been close. So, yeah, it kind of brought us a little bit closer.
You guys are never this quiet.
No, I think definitely brought us closer because it's more like we're holding each other's hands. After that happens, like everyone's checking in on each other. So now we do that more like consistently, even though the soccer season's over, because you never know what's gonna happen. So I think that's good.
All right, so let me take the tour here for those that don't know the squad, and you guys can shout out your answers. But literally, we can turn this into just like everybody jump in, and I'll count down, and then you can tell me who it is and why, and then you can explain your answer. Funniest guy on the team in 3, 2, 1, go.
Cabal. That's unanimous.
And of course, he's the one who's ducking his head in the back. Like, that ain't me, man. I don't know. All right. So why is he the funniest? And everybody just go ahead and say things, because I'm sure he's just going to sit here and go like this.
He's just always laughing. You will bring the guys in for a huddle, and then I just always see Gabo like his shoulders shaking. He's laughing about something, or Nasib's laughing at Gabo, or Mustafa's laughing, and I'm like, guys, we got to get through this. But they're just good kids. They're just being kids, and they're having fun. So it's pretty fun.
All right, so we now know who the class clown is and who the funniest guy is. Who's the most serious one when it comes to doing stuff on the field for a game day in 3, 2, 1, go?
Mustafa.
Shakur.
Okay.
I agree with both of those. Yeah.
All right. Why?
Oh, just the way they got their game face on when they walk into the locker room. It's and I think Nasib is like that too. It's their business. They know what they need to do. That they're seasoned players, and they've been in high pressure games before, and they know what preparation means and how to get your body physically and mentally ready, and making sure they lead by example. They really do. They might not have to say anything. You just look at them and they're ready.
Okay, so let me ask the four of you this. Do you carry yourselves differently now? Do you, after the last couple of weeks, winning a championship plus what happened there in Lewiston, do you carry yourselves differently? Are you more serious? Do you look out for folks a little more? Do you not take life, as much for granted as you might have before? Do you look at how differently do you look at things now after what's been going on the field and off for the last 3 weeks?
I look at things like a lot differently, because after what happened, like I couldn't imagine that being like one of my friends. I wouldn't know what to do. So now I like check up on them more like on a daily basis. And like I see the like younger guys like in elementary school and things looking at us saying like, well, hopefully one day they want to be like us. So that's pretty cool too.
And of course, Gabo, he's back there like,
He's chilling. He's thinking in his head.
He's going to come up with a big answer here in a bit.
Well, he came up with some big goals. I can tell you that. He lets his play lets his play do his talking.
No doubt. Mustafa, do you carry yourself a little differently now?
Yeah, I take things more serious. And when it first happened, my mom called me, and we were going to the Mount Airy game, and she didn't know if I was like a victim or not. So I didn't know what was happening. So I declined the call because I was driving, and then after I heard what happened, and then I checked up on her, and yeah, I check up on my people more.
What about you, Dan?
Oh yeah. You just realize it puts things in your priorities in perspective. When you lose that many people in a senseless act of violence, and you're asking yourself why, and you and your family are okay, but you know that there are other people that are not, especially the ones that lost somebody. And then you got to think about people that are EMTs, like a former player that these guys know. He's an EMT, and firefighters and police officers, the things that they must have seen. I know for me, I don't get upset about some of the trivial things that you might used to be, that used to upset you, and in the end, these guys are great kids, and they're maturing, and they're going to give back. And I know they'll never forget it, because I know they realize it, but years down the road, they'll realize how big of an impact and how much it helped the community, what they did. And this will be a championship I will never forget.
No doubt about it. Guys, Coach, thanks for hanging out with us first thing on a Friday morning, and blame the guy in Atlanta if you're late for class. That's all you got to do. Just sit there and it's like, look, I was doing an interview and I blame him, and you can just sit there. Here's the email and here's the video proof. Guys, just know that a lot of folks open out their arms as wide as possible and, fully embrace you guys. We love you all very much, and, just keep the path going. Congratulations on the title and experiencing everything that you guys have the last couple of weeks. Just know that we're all thinking about you, and we love you very much. And thanks for coming on a Friday morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you guys too. You just got to spread the love. We need more of that.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch up soon. Go to class or not. Be good. We'll see you soon. There you go. Thought that would be cool to hang out with the friends at Lewiston High for a little bit. And fantastic stuff that they were able to do was, I think, 18 days ago, where you had the shooting that absolutely just impacted that community like no one could ever imagine. And then they experienced last weekend a state title in boys soccer. So, thanks to everybody there at Lewiston High for answering the phones and emails and all that kind of stuff and being able to start things off on a Friday morning. So once again, thanks to everybody up there in Lewiston, Maine, Coach Gish and Jason Fuller, the AD, and everybody up there for dropping in. I didn't know we were going to have players. I did not know we were going to have players. So it's great that we were able to show that. And once again, there's a book called One Goal that came out as a part of their initial run of all of those state championships in the late teens. And so I would recommend, I know I've got it here in the office someplace, but I would recommend getting that book because, as Coach said, you have players whose families are from Angola, from Kenya, from Somalia, from French-speaking Canada, and they've all come together to be a part of this. And it was, fantastic to be able to, be able to share the story and all those kinds of things. So it was once again great to catch up with everybody there in, up there in Lewiston, Maine. So once again, thanks to them, and thanks to everybody there to be able to tell the story and share the story as best they could. So that's the beginning of a very, very whiplashy show today. And once again, thanks to all of them up there. Like I said, we got to talk about, obviously, you guys have been talking about all the roster decisions that have been going on for Atlanta United. 22 currently rostered, so that means that there are, I think, 8 spots available. And you've got some decisions that have to be made. Crew this morning just announced that they are signing Darlington Nagbe to a multi-year contract extension. And so since it is slightly after 9:30, we get to go and catch up. The whiplash continues. And that means I got to go find the fancy opening that we traditionally have for this segment because our friends from this place are hanging out with us. Michael Parkhurst. Oh, look at the lid. Look at the lid. That is strong, sir. I was going to say, hang on. Let me see if I can.
I got it.
There you go.
I got it. Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Morning.
That's a wicked hat you got there, Mr. Parkhurst.
Oh, thank you. I was up in Rhode Island last weekend, so had to get the new hat.
Well, and you're also getting signings, and you are raising some early eyebrows in USL Championship with the folks that you are bringing in for the upcoming season.
That's what we're trying to do, anyways. We've been really happy with the progress so far. It's challenging, but we've made really good progress. Happy with where we're at right now, and got obviously more things in the works.
All right. So as I'm trying to promote everything that we're going to be talking about, I'm trying to figure out who you are on the 280 character app. Okay, it is Rhode Island FC. And anything else on his mind or his head, be a part of the conversation. So, you got mascots now, you've got players now. It looks like you're building from the spine. You went in net, you've got center backs, all these kinds of things. Am I noticing a philosophy here with you and Kano and everybody up there? Is that what we're staring at? You build from the spine and go from there?
Definitely. That's what you want to try and do. I think it doesn't always work out that way, right? Because guys become available when they become available, but for sure we were looking up the spine to make sure that we've got a good foundation for the team, and that's goalkeeper, center back, center mid, and striker. And we don't have all those filled yet, but we're getting there.
Okay. I know that today has already been a decision day for Atlanta United. I don't want to get into specific players, but when it comes to the end of season and decision days, I know that you've been, part of Major League Soccer. When it comes to decision days and players, obviously it's a rough day on a bunch of different fronts. franchises have to make decisions. Folks that you've got relationships with may or may not be with you for upcoming years. It's a difficult day in professional sports when you have decision day for teams.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that probably, a lot of those guys knew earlier than today. But yeah, that's the tough thing about the end of the season, right? Guys are moving on and moving out, and that's part of professional sports. You obviously are close with some of those guys, and sometimes it makes you question what's going on, and you wish it wasn't that way. But obviously the front office has got jobs to do, and they're trying to look out for the organization and improve it, right? And every position's always upgradable. So, guys have to move on. But that doesn't make it easy. And I'm just looking at the list right now. Because I didn't know that it came out this morning. But that's it's tough to see somebody like Chol go, and then Efren Morales, and
I think they're still looking to negotiate with Efren to see if they can bring him back in some way. And a guy like Machope, you want to see Machope succeed. Just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and it's just one of those things with Chop that you want to see him flourish, considering everything that he's done. But it's once again, it's one of those decisions that you got to sit there and look at the long-term future. 22 under contract with homegrowns coming up, so there's 8 decisions that can be made to bring folks in and all that kind of stuff. And I know that Miles is definitely another one of those decisions that they've got to stare at. Sounded like after Game 3 in Columbus that he wasn't coming back, but once again, you sit there, and that's what negotiation. That's why they call them contract negotiations, not just contract definitives. And so obviously, if you can bring him back, you can. Miles, I know for the longest time has wanted to go and see what life is like on the other side of the Atlantic and those kinds of things. But, that's what this offseason's about. Everybody's starting to make decisions. You sit there and you go, ooh, we'll keep an eye on that person. So it's the build. And that's why I wanted to kind of ask you about your build in addition to what's your, not just, specifically Atlanta United, but the tough part of the year where you might end up being separated from friends and things. Our best of 3, are you did we talk about best of 3 versus aggregate and what you thought about the new playoff format in Major League Soccer?
It's horrendous.
As you wipe your brow and put your hat back on.
It's horrendous. Somebody said it in the media. I forget what player, but it was like, you could lose 7-0 and go out there and then win, then tie 2 games and win penalty shootouts and move on. It's just crazy. I was talking to Darlington, and he was like, yeah, I've never played in a baseball series, but here I am. So, I don't think anybody enjoyed it. Hopefully MLS has learned from this, and we won't see this again or experience it, because I think it's just a amateur.
Well, and we were doing the math, and the way that I look at it, and the way that I've looked at it from the beginning, is it's television episode. It's episodes for a television series, and that television series on Apple TV just happens to be called Major League Soccer. And you want to have as many opportunities for your sponsors to run their spots as possible. So that means you've got to have as many episodes as you possibly can. But we did the math, and if everything was 2-leg aggregate except for MLS Cup final, I think it's 2 less episodes. I think it's like 33 matches possible to 31 that you could have if you went aggregate 2-leg all the way through to MLS Cup final. So, if they come up with a change, hopefully it's a little sooner than the beginning of the season.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind 2-leg aggregate for the last round and for this round. I think that the conference final and the final itself needs to be 1 game. Okay.
And so that's Michael Parkhurst has spoken. You put your flag in the ground, and that's where we are. But I look at it from a television series. It's the first year of a new TV series.
I get it.
It's like Friends, Oh, Friends is popular. So what do? We sit there and we have all these different episodes and all this kind of stuff. So I get it going forward. Well, one of the things that I wanted to catch up with you about when it comes to mentoring this go around. Separately, we had the folks from Lewiston, Maine, the boys soccer team on before you, and we got to catch up with them about winning a title and things like that, especially in some of the most dire circumstances that you could ever have, dealing with adversity and things like that. That's about as adverse a situation as you could ever have, like they had in Lewiston, Maine 3 weeks ago. And growing up sooner than you should. Sometimes you're faced with situations where folks have to grow up fast and grow up faster in times when they shouldn't. When you are around mentees and you have to talk to them about advanced responsibility, they've got to be more responsible out there. They've got to, I'm not going to say more adult, but I'll put that in quotes. Do you have the conversations with mentees about maturity and being more mature sooner than they possibly could? Do you have those conversations at all?
Yeah, we do. And talking about like how being an athlete and depending on their situation, but a high level athlete, you're viewed in a different scope than if you're not, right or wrong. And so you have to mature faster, right? Because you are in the public eye. And, if you're pro at 18 years old, you've got a lot more responsibility and need to show a lot more maturity than an 18-year-old who's at college, right? Because an 18-year-old who's at college who posts something silly online will get a slap on the wrist and oh, he's young and stuff. And an 18-year-old who's a professional and you post something online, you could lose your job or be fined a lot of money, or, there's severe repercussions. So, it's different. And so you need to mature. And so we talk a lot about like taking ownership of your own journey, right? Stop relying on mom and dad for, this, that, and the other thing. You should, the more that you can take on your own plate and take ownership of what's going on in your life, the better. And that can help with maturity. So it's definitely a big part of what we talk about, because there's usually a direct correlation between maturity and success and ability to show resiliency and growth mindset.
So when you get to see a mentee and you have discussions with them, and you get to see that light come on, and they get it. They understand the responsibilities and the repercussions, and you see that the level of maturity increase. What's it like for you and Greg, and even for their parents, if they get to show those kinds of emotions publicly? What's it like for you guys to have the sense of pride in someone who gets it and understands something like that? That's an off the field thing, especially for younger players. What's it like for you guys to see that?
Yeah, it's great. It just, we feel happy for them, right? That they're reaching this spots usually earlier than their peers, because we know how much that can help them have success in their career. Obviously, if it's someone that struggled with it, who's now understanding it and getting it, we feel even better, because we feel like we've played a bigger role in helping that person see it and experience it and understand it and get there. But really it's just trying to help them get there and understand it and understand why it's important and take ownership of it. Right. And then not just like being told, hey, this is important, but understanding why is this important? How can it help me? Those things are the key. And that's what we want to see.
When you are learning, because I would posit that we as adults, or just anybody, should be learning something new every day, even if it's a reinforcement of an idea, if it's a new idea that's being presented to us. I always say that if we're not learning, then we're standing still, and that's the last thing you want to do. You want to be standing still. You don't want to be standing still, because others will pass you by in whatever field you're talking about. Mm-hmm. When it comes to you learning as a mentor, are there certain books that you read? Do folks sit there and say, hey, maybe this would help? When it comes to you learning as a mentor, how do you continue to learn every day and continue to grow, as a mentor the way that you have been?
Yeah, I just think, through experience and reflection on some of the calls that I have and what different people are going through, conversations with Greg, and reading. I read a really good book on my plane rides called The Expectation Effect. It's really, really fascinating book about how the role our expectations play in our lives and in different situations. Things like placebo effect in medicine, to expectations entering a new environment, to like how you perceive getting older, and like how that really, those things really do affect you in real life. Even though a lot of it might be mental, it then becomes present and physical, and just the power of the brain in those aspects of things. And I think that's really important, because when players are out there, and are they bought in, right? And are they bought into the training and what they're learning and their environment? Because if they are, they'll learn exponentially more and become so much more of a better player than if they're fighting things, and don't have that expectation of improvement and that self-belief. So that was a really good book. I enjoyed it.
Beyond Goals Mentoring at BG Mentoring on the Twitters, at MF Parkhurst. Michael won the toss today, and he gets to hang out with me for the Friday free kick. You mentioned perceptions about growing older. Have your perceptions changed about growing older over time? We could take this in separate steps, where your time as a mentor, have your perceptions changed? Were they different from when you were an athlete? Were they different from the time when you were an athlete to a retired athlete to a mentor? How have your perceptions about growing older changed, or have they? Because I think we act a lot younger today. The adults today act a lot younger than, say, our parents or our grandparents, because we always have this thought in our head of, parents and Argyle sweater and Mr. Rogers looking thing, and that's how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be an old father, an old mother, and you go into the stereotypes of whatever TV episodes you want to talk about. But I think that the adults today act a lot younger than adults in previous generations, and that might help our perceptions about growing older.
Totally. And that's a great thing. It is, right? Because the book talked about it. It was like the perception of getting older, and how you stay young. And, if you don't give into like, oh, I'm getting old, I can't do this anymore because I'm getting old, or, oh, I should feel like this because I'm this age, right? Then you will start to feel like that. No, so I am totally on board with that. I'm trying to stay young. Not only physically, but mentally as well. Trying to engage with my kids, obviously with my mentees, learn the lingo, right?
Whoa, okay.
And honestly, the lingo is just acronyms. They just speak in letters. It's just, IDK and, BRB and FR. And it's like, they don't even speak words. So it's just understanding that. But, yeah, I think it is a different perception, right? Of like, I'm turning 40 soon, and like, I don't view that as old. The Riz King, yeah. It's like, I still feel young, so it's all good.
So are you trying to become the Riz King?
Definitely not. I don't think my kids would approve.
So for those of us who are older than you, what exactly is a Riz King?
I believe, and Alex, I could be wrong, but a Riz is somebody that's like trying to impress others, I think. Usually somebody that they're attracted to.
Okay, yes, it is. How good are you with attracting folks? How good are you as a male attracting women? I just went to Urban Dictionary, and so I'm not going to repeat what Urban Dictionary.
I knew it. Yes.
Charisma.
That's right.
All about charisma. FR? I mean, how much
For real.
Yeah, how much of a transition is it for you to have to try to sit here and talk in acronyms? Do you have to talk in acronyms back and forth with your mentees? I could imagine in the Parkhurst household, you might be sitting there and dealing in acronyms, and the boss is sitting there going, "Really, really, Michael, you want to do it that way?" But
Yeah.
I mean, how are you? Do you talk in acronyms? Do you try to talk the generational lingo? Are you dropping that kind of knowledge on these kids?
Every now and then, because I think it helps them, like, oh, he's not old. Oh, he's young and he understands, he gets it. So every now and then I'll throw one in there, just to let them know, hey, I understand what you're going through. I got you.
I just have this vision of you now. All of a sudden, it's like you're on the field with a lot of teenagers, and you go, BRB, and then you just kind of walk off, and they're sitting there and go, oh, I can't believe he just did that. How many raised eyebrows do you get from mentee aged folks when you are trying to be the Riz King? I mean, do they?
Not as many as my own kids give me, that's for sure. They're much more respectful.
Okay. Well, but you mentioned the whole thing about staying young and learning the lingo, learning how to communicate, learning how they communicate, because what we do with interpersonal communication is, entirely different. And you're having to learn how to bridge those gaps with mentees and the mentee age folks with themselves. So it's another level of understanding that you and Greg have to put together for folks who are, more than half of your age.
Exactly.
I mean, this
life is tough, John.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you're having to learn things about other folks and see. I'm going to have to print up a sweatshirt that says Riz King and mail it to you. Just literally right here, it just says Riz King.
Riz King.
Maybe a crown that's a little askew, or something
that's
like that.
That's actually pretty good. Maybe I'll get that for my son as a joke.
See, there you go. But that was, that was why I wanted to ask about how you bridge these generational gaps and things like that, because I would imagine, how you did it when you were starting out as a mentor and starting out with you and Greg Beyond Goals. I imagine that you've had to adjust over time. Do you remember like the first time you were trying to have these kinds of conversations and people are sitting there going, what's he talking about? Did he actually just say that? I mean, it's adjusting and learning for you too. Yeah.
Totally. And I think I've mentioned it before. It's like what works with one person doesn't necessarily work with another, right? And it's like trying to understand who you're talking with, what their perception is, what they're going through, how old they are, what their maturity level. So yeah, the message, like the overarching messages stay the same. The delivery has to change, and how you deliver it. So that's all part of the process, but that's what keeps it fun and interesting, right? Because you never know going into each call, what's going on. I had a call right before this of a young man, and he told me, I'm living in Spain and I want to go to college, and so I'm over there researching international stuff, or because I don't know a lot about that process. And then I get on the call, and the guy's from Atlanta, and he went to Polk High School, and so it's like, all you gotta change on the fly.
Well, and I mean, that to me, that's kind of wild. You sit there and it's like, yeah, I'm having a conversation with somebody in Spain. And then obviously it loops back to him being from Pope, but just the idea of having to adjust to all of these different ideas. Do you keep, how much journaling do you do? Because I know that Greg journals, and I think he's kind of convinced you into the journaling idea, or at least into the note-taking idea. How much journaling have you done to try to keep track of all of the things that you have to keep track of?
We take notes after every session. We journal and document all of our conversations because we share mentees, and we don't want to overlap too much about what we talk about and stuff. So if I'm talking to a mentee for the first time and I can see that Greg's spoken to him, I'm like, hey Greg, shoot me the notes, man. So we're pretty good about documenting what we talk about so that, we can pick up the conversation right where we left off next session.
So when you and Greg are having separate conversations with a mentee, what aspects does he tackle? What aspects do you tackle? Or does that vary from person to person?
Yeah, it varies. I'd say the only thing that is definite is if they are Spanish first language, Greg takes the majority of it. And if they are dealing with college and that process and admissions and contacting schools and all that stuff, usually I'll take that. But otherwise, it's kind of either or.
Okay, because I didn't know if there were certain aspects, when it comes to the lines of delineation. It's like, okay, when it comes to on the field, behavior, it's Greg. If it's touchline stuff, it's you. If it's maturity, it's Greg. And so that way you guys aren't crossing the streams. I didn't know where the crossover was, or if it was just like, okay, topics in general. Parky handles A, B, C, D, and E, and Greg handles 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that way you're not blending the way that you're trying not to.
Yeah.
Okay. One more thing before you go. Actually, 2. I lied. I fibbed. Last night, U.S. men's national team took care of Trinidad and Tobago. It was 10-man Trinidad and Tobago after the first 40 minutes, and they finally just wore them down and won 3-0. That much closer to CONCACAF Nations League. Did you watch? Were you passively keeping an eye on what was going on at Q2? What do you think about the Nations League as they're getting closer to hopefully chasing after another CNL title?
Did not watch, John. I actually watched some college soccer last night.
NCAA tournament. Who'd you watch?
I watched IU play Lipscomb, and then I watched Yale play Bryant.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. Bryant had a tough loss at home, dominated the game. And to be fair to this Yale player, ball turned over right past midfield, picked his head up and chipped the goalie with 1.5 minutes left in the game.
I'll have to look for that. So Bulldogs v. Bulldogs, Yale and Bryant. I'll have to look for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then since next Friday is Black Friday, and I imagine that you will be hip deep in celebrations, conversations, and trying not to have your Amex smoking from all the transactions that you'll be making getting ready for Christmas. What is the Parkhurst family Thanksgiving? What are you anticipating? And how much of an experience are we missing by not being in the same room with the Parkhursts on Thanksgiving Day?
Well, I come down to Atlanta for the first few days of Thanksgiving week. So we've got our camps down there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Myself, Greg, Mikey, Ambrose, and Kevin Kratz. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week throughout Atlanta. And then drive back here Wednesday night, get back late. And then Thursday, do the Thanksgiving. Here at the house, it's just us 4, my wife's mom, and the Gressels are coming over for Thanksgiving. So it'll be us hanging out here, watching football, and eating the traditional turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes type stuff.
Okay, so there isn't a wild card side dish that appears on the Parkhurst family table?
The only thing that's, to me, abnormal is my son has to have Jell-O.
Okay.
Weird, I think, but whatever. He loves the Jell-O on Thanksgiving. That's like the only time of year he has Jell-O.
Okay.
But no, nothing real crazy, I don't think.
All right. Well, please, sir, enjoy your Thanksgiving. First off, I hope the clinics down here kick some serious ass and make sure that everybody learns how to do set pieces and defend from behind and all of those kinds of things over the next couple days. And then just drive home late. Just drive home safely, please. Because you said drive home late Wednesday. I'm like, whoa, that's a drive, man.
Yeah, it's 8 hours, but I will, Dad. Don't worry.
Okay, because we want to make sure that you have the proper holiday, and we need pictures. We need everything posted to social media and to BG mentoring and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I want to see you. I want to see you chasing after kids from behind and knocking the ball loose. That's what I want. Exactly. At MF Parkhurst on the 280 character app at BG mentoring. Please have a fantastic holiday. We will catch up with you, sir, in the month of December. And then we get to find out what Christmas is going to be like for the Parkhurst clan as we get closer to determining a champ in Major League Soccer and lament about the playoff structure. Be good, my friend.
There we go. You as well, John. Enjoy
the lid there. Enjoy that cap there, Parkhurst. Rhode Island right there. Nice colors. Talk to you soon. Parky hanging out. I don't know what's up with the stream, guys. I don't know because I'm staring at the Twitch right now and everything's fine. Okay. Duane Rollins joining us in 15 minutes to talk about all the chaos going on up north, and then Bart Keeler hanging out with us at 10:35. Maddy Crews is crashing as well. We'll go over the USMNT 3-0 win over Trinidad and Tobago last night, and we will discuss all of that. So once again, if you missed it, and I know that there's been a lot of talk in the Twitch pitch about it, but if you have missed it, I will go ahead and do this, considering that we just kind of blew through it the first time and, didn't quite have the chance to go in depth, but we will go over it one more time for those of you that missed it in hour number one. All right, so here's the deal. With Atlanta United, they've made their roster decisions. In addition to the 18 players under contract, club exercised its option on Aiden McFadden, 3 more players set to join the team on January 1st. Club declines contract options on 5, 6 other players out of contract. Options for Chol, Conway, Diop, Garces, Efren Morales declined. Ozzy Alonso, Miguel Berry, Miles Robinson, Mateus Osechu, Amar Sejdic, Quentin Westberg out of contract. Club remains in renewal negotiations with Morales, Robinson, and Westberg. Loans for Juanjo Purata and Xande Silva, and I thought I hit the loop button, but I didn't. So we're going to hit the loop button, and we'll continue to do it again. So I hit the breaking news long. I don't know what happened. Strange it was down. I was staring at it at least the whole time, at least in my part of the world. Continuing, loans for Juanjo Purata, Xande Silva expire at the end of the calendar year. Club has declined the transfer option on Juanjo Purata, yet to make a determination on Xande Silva's transfer option. Well, they have another 6 weeks to do it. Barry Chol, Conway, Garces, Purata, and Hosechu eligible for the reentry draft. Alonso, Diop, Robinson, Sejdic, Westberg eligible for free agency. Once again, the window. MLS offseason begins Monday, December 11. Trade window opening at 9 a.m. End of the year waivers process begins December 12, followed by free agency December 13. Reentry stage 1, December 14. Players under contract for 2024. Abram, Almada, Centeno, Cobb, Etienne, Fortune, Yakimakis, Gazan, Hernandez, Ibarra, Lennon, Lobjanidze, Mosquera, Muyumba, Sosa, TRA, Wiley, Wolf. Option exercised on Aiden McFadden. And we mentioned options declined. Chol, Conway, Diop, Garces, Morales out of contract. Alonso, Berry, Robinson, Hosechu, Sejdic, and Westberg. End of loans, Barco, Purata, Xande Silva. So 22 under contract right now. Luke Brennan joining effective January 1st, 2024. So that's where we are. All right, so that's your update. Atlanta United making their transfer contract decisions at the end of the year. Now, in other stuff, it was announced yesterday, Tommy Scoops and others, Chris Armas is going to be in charge in Colorado. So, when it comes to new coaching hires, Chris Armas now in charge in Colorado. Tommy Scoops and Paul Tenorio. Rapids finished bottom of the West, parted with Robin Frazier in September. Deal was reached between Armas and Colorado after an extensive interview process. Finalists included Rapids interim coach Chris Little, Charlotte FC assistant Pomadou Ka. Little expected to remain on Armas's staff. We all remember the stints at Toronto, where it didn't go well, let go after 11 matches. Supporters Shield with Red Bulls in 2018, taking over after Jesse Marsh left for Leipzig. Went on to serve as an assistant under Ralph Rangnick during 21-22, and with Leeds briefly under Marsh in 23. So already started making player personnel decisions in the offseason. Colorado has, not Armas. Jack Price, Diego Rubio, each announcing they would not be returning. You have a lot of flexibility under the cap. Colorado has DP forward Rafael Navarro on loan from Palmeiras through the summer. You'll have to decide on a purchase option. Navarro expected to be a key player along with Connor Ronan, Andrew Gutman, Keegan Rosenberry, and Cole Bassett. So you've got that with Colorado. Red Bulls yesterday said that they're not going to renew Troy Lassine's contract. So we'll keep an eye on what's up with Troy Lassine. Yesterday there were stories that Red Bulls have settled on a new coach, and he will be coming from the Bundesliga, and we'll be following that as we go. Now the other news that we wanted to get into this morning, like I said, Duane Rollins joining us to talk about everything Canadian men's team, Toronto FC, CF Montreal, Bobby Smirniotis, all that kind of stuff coming up in about 10 minutes. And Bart and Maddy closing up the show at 10:35. Everton, 10-point docking of points for violations of FFP. And they obviously less than pleased. Dock 10 points. Chris Bascom at the Telegraph. Independent commission set up to examine the club's losses during the Farhad Moshiri era found them guilty. Sean Dyche's side drop into the bottom three with immediate effect. The only thing separating them from activity being at the bottom is goal difference. Jarrett Smith joining us. So, Jarrett, what is on your mind this morning? We've got roster moves, roster decisions. Everton gets docked 10 points. Chris Armas in Colorado. We got to catch up with our friends from Lewiston, Maine. Michael Parkhurst has Rhode Island FC gear. It's been a full show. Trust me.
Yeah, no. I tried to hit the unmute button and it said no.
It's a Friday, brother.
Buddy, ain't it? Yeah, man. Like, hey, you buried the part where Argentina and Brazil both lost last night.
Yes, CONMEBOL.
Yeah, man. CONMEBOL. Not even once. Don't do it.
Nope.
Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to your mama. Don't do it to your cousin. Don't do it to that uncle who gave you socks for Christmas once.
Correct.
Just don't do CONMEBOL. CONMEBOL was constantly drunk. Yeah, man. So, like, I don't know. I've been trying to unpack the roster decisions mostly. So,
And wasting no time. Duane got all the green lights. He got all the green lights on all of his driving today. So Duane is going to be joining us early. He's ready to go. So
let's do it.
All right. So we bring in for the first time the SDH debut of Duane Rollins from 24th Minute. Duane, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Nice to be here.
How was training this morning?
My training, this is rest day for me, so I'm pretty good today. I did 7 miles yesterday on the trails and about 30 on the bike. So yeah.
So it's John, Jarrett, and you. And the reason that I wanted to bring you on, and I admit, subscriber, hand over my heart, hand in the air, because I've got to keep abreast as to what's going on north of the border. You had one of your columns came out recently about what's going on at CF Montreal. And I wanted to talk to you about that. I wanted to talk to you about Toronto FC. I wanted to talk to you about the Canadian men's national team. And we'll try to do it all in about 15 minutes. The name that you floated, I guess, actually from the more local perspective than those of us here at SDH, how would you characterize what in the wide world of sports is going on at CF Montreal?
Well, it's Joey Saputo in a word. I mean, look, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I apologize for that, but I mean, it's been a long time, so I don't think I have to apologize for much anymore. Jerry Jones is very familiar to me. Joey Saputo is MLS's version of that. He's meddling. He thinks he knows more than what he does. He tends to alienate. Now, I think in Jerry's case, as he gets older, he's getting a little less meddling. So hopefully for Montreal, that happens to them. But Joey's still very much active and And once his personality sort of kicks in, they can often lead to a lot of turmoil and turnover there.
And one more for me. And you mentioned an interesting name to who should be the new head coach at CF Montreal, and Bobby Smirniotis. For those that don't know who he is and what he means to Canadian soccer, break that down for folks.
First off, he's got the best beard in soccer. If you've seen him, he's a spectacular beard, and I'm a bearded man, so I do like that. But to be serious, he's he's not probably, but he's the most successful coach in the Canadian Premier League, which is in its 5th season for Jeff C, which is based out of Hamilton, Ontario. They've won 4 of the first 5 titles in that league. Beyond that, Bobby has created a pathway of players that have produced Kyle Lauren, players of that stature. Like he's been very successful in bringing players through that program. Richie Lorea is another name that came through the Sigma FC is the name of their academy side of things. And he's just a guy that knows how to sort of take talent and rise them through a pyramid into a top level. And I think for Montreal and the system that they're running there, where they want to be a little bit less spenders and more developers, that might be a perfect fit for them. Now, it's Quebec. There's politics involved with that. The French side of things needs to be addressed. I'm not entirely familiar in Bobby's French abilities. I've been told he has been taking French lessons, but that's always an issue. But other than that, it's really a good fit, unless Bobby doesn't want it for the reasons that we spoke of off the top.
Jarrett Smith for Duane Rollins, go.
As far as not just Montreal, but also Toronto up there, I know of the 3 teams in MLS who exist north of the border, it feels like Vancouver is the one that's kind of moving in positive momentum, although Toronto, it felt like kind of at the end of the year, it was just like, let's get through this and start rebuilding. What's the offseason look like for Toronto after what was disappointing in 2023?
Disappointing doesn't do it justice.
I was trying to be polite, but we can.
Yeah. I mean, it was a cluster, up here this year. Look, they made a big swing. I'll say this about TFC and MLSE, the ownership group there. They are always willing to spend. They are always willing to take big swings. And when you take a big swing, you strike out sometimes. And they clearly did with the 2 Italian DPs. Insigne, Bernardeschi, they just didn't seem like I hate to use that they aren't trying thing because I'm not a mind reader. I don't know, but the body language from the get-go did not read positively to those looking at it. They just didn't seem to really be doing much more than mercenary work up here, and it shows in the results. If you miss on your DPs, if you miss on a DP, you're going to struggle in Major League Soccer. If you miss on 2, you're screwed. And then the third one, their third DP in Toronto's Jonathan Rosario, was a great kind of TAM level player, but that was more of a bookkeeping issue they did there. So essentially TFC, even though they had the highest spend in the league, weren't really working with an effective DP. So the first thing they need to do in 2024 is they need to figure out what happens there. And until they know what's going on with the 2 Italian guys, whether they can sell one of them, if they can sell one of them, they can buy the other one out using the single buyout, then they could really start a rebuild. The problem is that they have so many bad contracts, so many players that are back under contract for 2024 that John Herdman's got a lot of work on his hands. Now, the one thing I'll say about John Herdman, I've covered him for more than a decade. Got to know him quite well when he was coaching the women's team back in the early 10s. He is very good at taking broken things and fixing them. I don't know whether John Herdman is good at taking the fixed things and making them the next level. And that's something he's never stuck around for. But right now, what TFC needs is fixing. So that's probably if you're going to lay hope for TFC, it's that they've got a fixer in. They've got a guy that's proven that he can, mend personalities, sort of fix toxic environments and bring teams back together. And combine that with MLSE's ability to spend. And then they're willing to buy out a Bernardeschi, because not a lot of Major League Soccer teams would be willing to spend that kind of money, but MLSE has shown that it would. Then they might be able to get it back on the right track. But you're really looking at 2024, I think, in Toronto as a true teardown season, not even a rebuild yet. More of a let's get this thing torn down, get rid of the contracts, figure out who wants to be here, and then move forward. But it doesn't look very promising right now. And unless you lay your cards on John Herdman fixing it all instantly, then you're going to be in trouble.
I was going to say, Duane Rollins at 24th minute on the 280 character app, hanging out with us here on Friday here on SDH. I was going to ask, how much of a leash is he going to get, and how much patience is there going to be from the outside looking in, knowing that this teardown has to take place?
There'll be no patience from the fans. I can tell you that. Their patience is worn thin. I mean, and maybe that's unfair. Maybe that says something about Toronto fans in general. I mean, they won a championship in 2017, which wasn't that long ago, but it's been a mess since. And the pandemic hit us a bit differently up here too, in the sense that those teams were isolated from us longer than they were in the American market. So they kind of lost touch with their fan base for a couple of years and lost their way. It's really hard to explain beyond that the pandemic really did hurt TFC's momentum in the market. So that's why they went with the big splash with the two Italian guys. And if you don't know, Toronto's got a huge Italian population here. So that's why they went that route. In terms of internally, one of the big questions we have is how much influence does Bill Manning, the president, have? A lot of people have felt since he won a power battle against Tim Bezbachenko and Greg Vanny and kind of pushed them out, the three guys that were involved in the championship team. Manning has had most of the personnel decisions and the big ones in the VPs. Is he willing to step aside and let John Herdman do that? We don't know these questions yet. You would think that John Herdman would have demanded that would have wanted that. Then again, a nice paycheck can smooth over a lot of demands that one has, and MLSE probably is paying the man quite well. So there's that. But yeah, there's a lot of questions here. How much Manning has, whether Manning's still around. MLSE is a big, like, multi-sport business, and the football team, the Argonauts had quite a good season there and turned it around business size. He's in charge of that, so he maybe not have as much job insecurity as we might hope or think. From a TFC standpoint, it's a mess. This team they won the wooden spoon deservedly, and they have basically the same team coming back contract wise. So who knows?
Jarrett, go for it.
I actually wanted to ask you about somebody who you would know very well, who just landed a job in Colorado as well, with Chris Armas taking over that project, which is its own mess out there in Colorado, going from the field up through the fans, up through the academy, everything. I wanted to get your thoughts on Armas taking over that project, considering the time he did in Toronto. It never, at least from our point of view, it never felt like a great fit, and then it didn't last, obviously.
Yeah, that one was a bit of a disaster. That's the start of when I talk about things starting to spin out of control. It was really that higher. Now, the thing I'll say about Armas's time in Toronto is it was very much to use a cliche, it was the round hole square peg thing up here, that they were trying to force a system into a high pressing system, high energy system on an older team that was more geared towards something a little more possession based. And once Armas left, they instantly had success, or more success anyway. And they ultimately had a failed season that year. But so I don't know how good of a view I have on Armas as a coach, because of his 11 games at TFC were so bad. We found him a little bit inflexible here in terms of his tactics. He was unwilling to sort of adjust on the fly when it was clearly not working. Now, whether that was coming from Manning, we'll maybe never know. So I have doubts about his ability to make something work in Colorado. But as you alluded to there, I mean, Colorado's got all the problems that we just mentioned about Toronto, but then an ownership that won't spend either. So you've got a lot of issues there, and it's too bad, because that's a market that really you'd want to be better in. But they're, do I think Chris Armas is going to be successful in Colorado? If I have to give you an answer short right now, it's no, I don't. And I think that maybe he's a coach that, and I gathered this when he was here, the coach that might be just better as an assistant. And that's not a knock on him. It's just his skill sets might be more geared towards that. The players do seem to like him, the ones that he, especially younger players, but to run a whole program is not something that he's been particularly successful at. You go way back, even his time in New York. Yeah, he has a supporter shield on his Wikipedia page there, but that was Jesse Marsh that won that supporter shield. He just sort of kicked it over the line. And then since then, it's been less than successful.
How would you view Bob Bradley's legacy at Toronto?
Confused. The Manning question hangs over everything. I am much more maybe apologetic, my critics would say, towards Bob Bradley than others would be. I don't think he ever had full control over the roster. I've been told by people inside that are in a position to know that he did not want the Italian DPs, that was not the direction he wanted to go. He was saddled with contracts that then sort of handicapped him in different ways. Now, he made mistakes too with the guys he brought in. He's maybe a little too loyal with folks that he's used in the past that are a little on in age now, and that sort of has compounded the issues in Toronto. I would have given him the rest of this year. I don't think they needed to remove him at the time they did. Certainly the results this year, when you look at pre-Bradley and post-Bradley, I mean, they were an absolute disaster post when all the structure was taken away. I think Bob Bradley is a guy that does a real good job at building things up, similar to Herdman in terms of that. His ability to put a tactical plan in place and execute it was proven at LAFC. Now, same with Herdman. Someone else kicked that over the line too. So we don't know what job. He's doing great right now in Scandinavia again. He's having a good time over there. So I think he's happy to be out too. But in terms of his time in Toronto, it all, like the big question here, I've said his name a bunch of times. I'll say it again. The question here is Bill Manning and how much influence he has and whether he deserves to still have that influence is what hangs over everything here.
Jarrett, go for it.
Yeah, and then I guess getting back to we've talked about, taking over the Toronto team with Hertman. What does it look like going forward from you being up there with Canada's national team? With him making that step away, you've had the success of getting to the World Cup, going in there and, bare knuckle brawling with teams at times through the group stage. What does it look like for Canada right now going forward?
Yeah, look, Alphonso Davies and Johnson David are still going to be playing for several years at a high level. So ultimately, when it comes to international football, you got two guys like that. You're going to be competitive. You're going to be competitive in CONCACAF. And of course, they have a World Cup berth in 2026. Now, what they can do at the world stage, I was a person who said after the World Cup that maybe it would have been for the best that Canada start to look in a different direction because Herdman maybe have taken them to as far as he could. Tactically at the World Cup, there were some questions. What he did in that Croatia game was a bit suicidal, to be frank, particularly after they get the early goal, get the lead, for them to not be a little bit more pragmatic in that situation for the result. It eliminated them that day. They were the first team eliminated from the World Cup, and it sort of took a lot of the oxygen out. But as you say, the other two games, for sure, they were very competitive in them. They, take a Morocco team that proven to be much better than people thought to close to a result in that one. Sheba Hutchinson's header goes off the bar goes under the bar rather than off it. Then we're talking about a result against a team that goes to the semifinal. They obviously take Belgium. They probably deserve to win against the Belgium. So they have a decent World Cup performance-wise, not result-wise. There's not a lot of countries in the world where you go 0 for 3 in a World Cup and keep your job. John Herdman does because Canada's not a lot of countries. He chooses to move on. There's an opportunity there. And then you get into the question about whether the CSA, the Canadian Soccer Association, is willing to spend the money or to do what's needed to try and take that program to the next level. There's huge fights between the federation and the players right now, both the men's and the women's side. Some suggestion that the women's side's about to get resolved, but the men's side's still not happy with their contract for the World Cup. They still haven't been paid their bonuses yet because they haven't got a deal in place. There's a lot of factors at play there. There's this Canadian soccer business deal, which is similar to SUM. If in the States, it's kind of the same idea. Not a lot of people understand that up here, so it's causing a lot of controversy, particularly among non-soccer media, that they don't know what the hell this thing is, so they just immediately dismiss its value. And its value is that it props up the Canadian Premier League, but nonetheless, it's complicated. It would take an hour of me to describe all this stuff. But what's my hope with the Canadian national team right now? As I said, the top end talent is such that they still should be good enough to be winning in CONCACAF. They have Jamaica up here. They're in Jamaica tonight. That's a result to get to Copa America, which is an absolute necessity. They should have enough talent to get through that tie, particularly with the home leg up here in Toronto on Tuesday when it's supposed to be 32 Fahrenheit on the day. The Jamaicans aren't going to like that too much.
No, they're not. No. Since you stole the last question from me asking about today and Tuesday, go ahead and hit the promo for me for those that should be keeping an eye on your work. How do they do it? Must follow, must subscribe. So let folks know how they can.
I'm at 24th minute, as you see on my label there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find me in all social media platforms. All of them basically. Facebook, I'm not really active on, so you don't need to worry about that one. But that's the easiest way. I promote everything. The Substack is at 24th minute as well. So all my writing goes through Substack. I also have a podcast which is focused on the developmental side of the game up here in Canada called Next Pod Soccer Podcast. You can search for that on any podcast catcher right there, and you'll find it. Myself and James Grossi. James Grossi works for TorontoFC.ca, so he's great. Really knows his development stuff.
And I'm glad that you said that the CSA-CSB discussion would take another hour, because it would, and that's why I kind of left it to the side, knowing it would be its own entity to save for later on when folks have negotiations and they get close to signing on the bottom line. Duane, thanks for making your premiere here on SDH on a Wild Friday, and thanks for the education. We'll be catching up soon, my friend.
Cheers. Anytime.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Duane Rollins, the premiere of Duane Rollins on SDH. And
I'm really glad he gets into the Canadian side of it, because it's something that we don't really get into. I know I don't get into it much because I don't know a lot about the politics of it like he does.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm glad he's able to come in and explain that, because I could try, but I know I'm going to get like 80% of it wrong because I'm not there. I don't see the politics of it on the day to day and follow it the way Duane does. So it's nice to have someone come in and like lay it out. Even if the answer is, hey, this would take me an hour to explain it to you, that's still a worthwhile answer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's still the answer of, hey, it's complicated. That's okay.
Yes. The CSA-CSB thing. Follow Rick Westhead at TSN as well, because he's done some really good deep dives on that. Let's see. So Bart Keeler coming on in short order. Maddy Crews coming on in short order. It's going to turn into a party line here at the end of the week where we discuss everything going on with the USMNT. There might be some more reffing down here. Jarrett, how much longer do we have you?
Partially through whatever chaos Bart's going to bring in here, Maddy's going to bring in here, like partially through that, but you're probably going to get an Irish goodbye at some point.
Okay, no worries. Yes, so it's been one of those weeks, but no, it's been
one of those lives.
That's
right now. Like this is very much like this has been a life, man. Jesus.
Yes, it has. We were getting into Tom Russo's anger about the 10-point deduction for Everton breaching FFP.
Hey, man. Hey, Tom. I don't blame you, because like you want to get on the conspiracy wagon. Is City getting that deduction?
Nope.
Just saying.
City got lawyers.
And that's BS, man. But it's. I assume whenever stuff like this happens that the answer is, because we see this in college football, where I'm like, if this happened, I'm assuming you did something really stupid and didn't try and cover it up. And they're like, well, Jesus, we can't just excuse it because you didn't cover it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's that level of like, oh man, like the Michigan thing right now. Like, hey, Michigan's getting popped because they were stupid.
Yes.
I don't know the full details. I'm wondering if Everton just like did something dumb that everyone else is doing, but
I don't think. Well, they may not have. They were dumb, but they recorded. So here's what happened. The case was brought forth for breaking FFP rules, profit and sustainability, after Everton recorded financial losses of £304 million over a 3-year period. Problem: you're not allowed any more than 105 over a 3-year period. So Everton basically tripled the financial losses allowed in a 3-year period. They argued mitigating factors, stadium expenses. They're building that new stadium at Bramley Moordock. Impact of the war in Ukraine, which affected their sponsorship deal, and also the loss of value in players due to the COVID pandemic. And this is from our friends at the Telegraph. One area of particular contention regarded the interest charges on the cost of the stadium. Prior to 2022, rate hikes were permissible. That changed in the last set of accounts and contributed to the latest breach. They also cited the loss of potential earnings from a saleable player due to extraordinary and unforeseen circumstances that cost the club at least $10 million. having complied with the Premier League in consecutive years, Everton feel they've been treated harshly when, once again, compared to Manchester City, 114 more charges and accusations of a far less transparent process. Moshiri's in the process of selling the club to 777 Partners out of Miami. And you go to our friends at Yosemite Football and 777, they aren't necessarily the most trackable folks when it comes to their finances either. And it's being, right now, that takeover is being ratified by the Premier League Financial Conduct Authority. So basically what you're looking at, Everton docked 10 points because they skipped the rules. And so, of course, now, since we're talking a team not Newcastle, Maddy has started to dive in.
Listen, I felt it in the back of, like, I had a little sense y'all were talking about it. And so I was like, you know what? Let me just hop in.
So, yeah, we're talking Everton and the 10 points. Jarrett, for a full disclosure, Maddy is much like Alex Pacine, is a Newcastle person. And so, sorry, Maddy. And so, yeah, we were getting into the Everton discussion.
I mean, at what point do we kill off the sorry Alex thing? Because Newcastle's actually fun now.
Yeah. Well, no, I think we actually did until, but now we're doing it because of injuries.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's like, but y'all never do like, hey, sorry, Jarrett, you got to watch Brendan Rodgers manage a team every day for the second time in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I never did that. Like, someone asked the other day, like, who's your least favorite manager of your club, past or present? I'm like, honestly, it's both, because he's there right now and he was there before.
You're like Brendan Rodgers next.
Yeah.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Oh my God. But yeah, we were going over the math of the Everton points deduction. They are now not at the bottom of the table on goal difference. They are 19th now after the points deduction.
Where were they before?
Where were they before? That was they were like 14th. They were in decent shape. Yeah, they were the 10-point deduction had them in 13th place. Nottingham Forest actually 14th, if my math is right. So they were at 14 points, 10-point deduction. They were in 14th, and now they are in 19th on goal difference. Burnley is also at 4 points, but they have a worse goal difference. So that's where we are with 14. So 14 down to 4, and the only reason that they're not last is goal difference right now. And Tom Rousseau is cursing the earth that he's walking on because of this.
I have some Everton friends here at KSU, and I just know that he's not happy right now.
No, we've got a couple of Evertonians who are a part of the group. Now that the Peach Belt preview, the rap review preview is up, what did you take away from the Peach Belt review preview?
It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I got to talk to a couple of the players. Giovanni Rios, who is one of the team captains, been the team captain for 4 years. And then I got to talk to John Michael Torres, who was the MVP of the tournament. It was a nail biter last night. I wasn't able to watch it because there was a paywall, but it's okay. I was keeping up with the live stats as I was just refreshing it every 5 minutes. They scored it. They were down 1 goal. And at the 89th minute, they tied it up. And so went to overtime, and then they went to PKs, and then they advanced. And so I was very happy for them. It was a lot of fun getting to talk to all of them yesterday. Even Jess too. If you would have seen me after I was done all the interviews, me editing on Adobe, I was grinding, because on top of that, I also had to do a project for school. So I was pulling double duty yesterday, and it was great.
Why, yes, you did. And so, this is what Maddy is up to in her senior year at Kennesaw State. And she's juggling about 98 different things. And as promised, at 10:35, it's for the final half hour, maybe. We might go long, who knows. It is time to bring in Bart for the 4-way dance. And so, Bart, last night, it was Trinidad and Tobago and the USMNT at Q2. And, I got to tip my hat to Trinidad and Tobago, but I'm going to let you go ahead and kick things off and sit there and go, all right, what happened and what your takeaways were before we unleash the hounds this morning.
Yeah, I mean, tip your hat to a team putting 27 men in a 14 square foot radius. Yeah, sure, we can tip our hats to that. It didn't take a whole lot of ingenuity to figure out that if you just put all 11 players behind the ball for 90 minutes, you're it's going to take a while to give up a goal. But yeah, they defended resolutely for most of the game. And the U.S. did them a lot of favors by being a little impatient in possession and not really connecting on some of the more adventurous passes that they tried. But, it was frustrating because the things we wanted to do weren't working out the way we wanted them to. Specifically, the wingers that started the game were just, quite frankly, not good. They combined, 0 for 5 on dribbles, which is not what you want from your wingers against a compact defense. And when that's not happening, the rest of the team's going to struggle because if your wide players aren't going to perform against a very narrow block, then you're not going to get too much done.
All right, ladies first. Maddy, what's on your mind about the USMNT for Bart Keeler?
I mean, watching the whole game yesterday when they went down to 10 men, I thought it would open us up a lot more. And like you said, I mean, they packed everybody back there. But I do have to say, in credit where credit is due, Denzel Smith for Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, the saves he was pulling out last night had me like on the floor. That was crazy. But I don't know. I thought, at least for the most part, until we actually got scoring when Pepe kind of came in and like really just hammered it home, it felt kind of lackluster. Like I didn't really like feel like we were doing much going forward. It felt like we were taking one step forward and then going right back and then like going back again and then not capitalizing on anything. But I mean, Greg said it at halftime. Once we start scoring, it's going to open the floodgates. And that's exactly what happened. We started scoring and then we just kept scoring all the way into the final whistle.
Took 80 about
81 minutes.
Tale as old as time, though. Yeah, I mean, like they put 11 guys behind the ball. They have no interest in actually playing the game today, other than holding the line like it's Helm's Deep. But the second you hit the breaching wall, boom, boom, boom. Like 3 goals, fine, cool. Just 80 minutes of just
yes, basically.
Well, and Jarrett, they kept the 5 back even when they went down to 10 men, right? They didn't go to a 4-4-1. They kept a 5 back with 3 midfielders and 1 attacker. So, they really were in there packed tight, and we struggled.
All right. So, as we always do after these matches, we go to Soccer America so Bart can vent his spleen at the numbers that are posted by our friends at Soccer America, the ratings. Mike Voitala's turn this time. Matt Turner got a 5. Defenders, Serginho Dest got a 4. CCV gets a 5. Tim Ream gets a 5. Jedi Robinson gets a 6. Midfield, Weston McKinney gets a 4. Gio Reyna got an 8. Yunus Musa got a 4. The forwards, to your point, Bart, here's Voitala's numbers on the forwards. Malik Tillman, he gave a 2, which I have not seen in quite some time. Falarin Balogun got a 5. Kevin Paredes, before he was subbed off, got a 3. Pepe gets a 6. Brendan Aronson gets a 2. Man.
I think the last time I saw a 2 was when Kubo Torres, basically hit a volleyball spike in the box for Atlanta United.
I mean,
Aronson got a what now?
Yeah, so here's what he laid out. He said Brendan Aronson got a 2. Brendan Aronson should have opened the scoring on a chance much more convenient than Pepe's and mishit 3 other shots.
But he got into chances to score.
Yeah,
which is way more than the other wingers did before him. Who, again, 0 for 5 on dribbles, connected on a total of 0.5 crosses. And he's mad at Brendo for actually getting there? Wow. Okay.
Like I said, man.
There's no guarantee that we're ever all watching the same game. There might be there are times where I see these numbers and I wonder are we actually in a multiverse?
Well, and I felt the same way about Dest, because I feel Dest was kind of screwed by playing with Tillman, who was bad on the right side. And so as an overlapping fullback, if your winger on that side is going to be crap, Jedi, I think Jedi's performance was in spite of Paredes. and if anything, saved us on that side. And I thought Dest was pretty good too. I mean, I think Dest and McKinney both had a case of trying a little too hard at times. And that's why they had lower scores. But I mean, it's fair to be critical of this team. It took them 81 minutes to score, but I don't think it was like it wasn't terrible, except for a couple of players.
Maddy, stats on the night: USA 8-0 on shots, 26-1. Actually, I think it's the other way around. This is a statistical error by our friends at Soccer America, a graphic error. Shots on target 26-1, shots 8-0. I think that needs to be
there. We go.
It needs to be
flipped. Shots on target 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shots on target 26 on 8 shots on goal. 5 saves by TNT. Maddy, as you were talking about, 10 corners for the U.S., none for TNT.
Mm-hmm.
Fouls 14-9, offside 3-on-2, possession 75-25. What other bright spots?
Honestly, feels hot low too. 75.
Oh, I know it does. Maddy, bright spots. Who's hot and cold for you after this match?
Bright spot. I've always said it. Ricardo Pepi is a phenomenal player, and I was upset that he wasn't getting called up to the U.S. men's national team. I think he's a phenomenal player, and I'm glad that he's finally getting the chance to get up there. And personally, I think he earned the start. I think he should be able to start because I just think he's a very good forward. And I think with Balogun as well, I feel like it'd be great if we saw both of them up there. But I mean, Pepi to me has always been a player that stands out in my eyes. I mean, Tillman was not playing well. That was the one notice I'd had. I was a little I saw the lineup and it wasn't awful. I wasn't too upset about it. But as the game went on, I was like, okay, he needs to come out. I was like, nothing's happening. I was like, everything's looking, that was rough. And then I think hats off to Gio Reyna as well. He's really stepping in to be kind of the missing piece of Christian Pulisic a little bit, which is nice. Because, we're down Christian Pulisic, who kind of does a lot of that, damage control. He's in there, he's getting the ball in there, he's creating chances. And we didn't see that a lot in the first half. And then going into the second half, Gio Reyna kind of, when he got into that center position up at the top, I mean, he was really opening up and making some chances and getting in those opportunities.
Bart, good, bad, indifferent, ugly. And I would say that also the blonde dye job was helping things out too.
There are several players. It was actually really confusing to see Jedi and Gio with the same hairstyle because I was like, wait, which one is which for most of the game, to be honest. I felt that in the first half, I would have liked to have seen Gio and Malik. That's his name. Malik switch from winger to that center forward or center midfield position. I would have liked to see them switch. Maybe not full time, but just try to change who is attacking who, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Malik was not playing well. And, he wasn't playing well when he kind of came inside. He wasn't playing well when he was out wide. And if you're going to criticize Greg Berhalter, which plenty of people on Twitter were, it would be that, in my opinion, Tillman should have been taken off at halftime. He was bad. He was actively hurting the team. And the fact that it still took 20 minutes, 30 minutes almost into the second half for that to change is, to me, bad on Greg Berhalter. I don't think he got the lineup right, but I don't also think that he had a whole lot of options. We've seen Zendejas not perform well at the national team level, but it was clear that Paredes and Tillman, who, by the way, have not looked good in a U.S. shirt yet, were not, again, good that night.
So how would you have laid this out? Obviously, Paredes and Tillman for you would have been on the bench, but with those folks on hand, how would you have switched?
Well, actually, no, John. I think I would have still started Tillman.
Okay.
I probably would have started Brendan instead of Paredes, just because I think Brendan Aronson, in a match where the goal for Trinidad was clearly to stay organized, stay compact, despite what Boitala said and giving him a 2, the man got into very good positions inside the box because he kind of works in chaos. And so if the opponent's goal is to be ordered and resolute and concrete, having a little chaos in there is probably good. And I think Brendan has shown time and time again that he's a reliable player. You know what you're going to get. And unfortunately for Paredes, he hasn't. It's something. I mean, he's only had 2 appearances for the U.S., so it's not like we can say it's good, bad, or whatever, but it's just not been. It hasn't clicked yet. It looked bad against Oman. He looked nervous against Oman, and then you throw him out against Trinidad and Tobago, a team that, again, we know they're going to be defensively sound in a match that actually matters. I thought that was really bad for Berhalter, to be honest.
And, when we look at this one, it sets you up for the quick turn heading into the weekend and trying to prep for what we're staring at on the back end of this. You're booking your tickets to Dallas, though, right? I mean, this is now that you've got 3 on the board. I think there's a lot less concern after those last 10 minutes than there was in the first 80. You're staring at the advancing of the U.S. into the finals here.
John, let me take you back about, let's see.
Here he goes. Here we go.
6, 7 years.
Yeah.
When we had to get a result. In Trinidad.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not booking anything.
Okay.
John.
All
I'm
right.
not.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Hey, it's all good.
You mean that time Bruce Arena got it wrong?
Greg Berhalter gets things wrong on the reg, so don't pretend like he's immune from a Bruce Arena dumbassery. Sorry,
he's not. We lose the G rating every time we're both on the show. It's okay, buddy.
I know.
No, it's okay.
You brought up Bruce Arena, so there goes the explicit rating.
Yeah, that is in and of itself a profanity. No, it's I'm just always amazed that I remain amazed that Josie and Michael Bradley got booed in every venue they went to, but Bruce didn't because of that game. It was just weird.
So
Howard on a rain-slogged pitch.
Well, but
a Tim Howard who could not read long shots in his youth, much less in his prime, and did not have the spry legs to make up for it.
That go from distance against Tim Howard. You did it at Cuba. The ball wobbles and Tim can't pick it up.
While when actually in his prime, Brad Guzan was just stapled to the bench, and because of that, we had to run Kyle Radish and Alex Tambakis out here against Minnesota.
I remember that. That was scary. Yeah,
but no, I'm not booking it yet, but I feel confident.
Okay.
You know who else should feel confident, John?
Who?
Panama.
Yeah.
3-0 at Costa Rica last night. That's impressive. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. See, Panama wins 3-0 at Costa Rica. We can't even. It took us 27 years to score against Trinidad. Anyway.
I see how this is. I see how this is working.
It took us. So what you're telling me is it took us exactly one DeMarcus Beasley career length to score.
I think it was DeMarcus and Christine Lilly combined is what it felt like.
If he had not straight up said I'm done, I think they still might be calling DeMarcus Beasley. And I was begging for years, just let the poor man retire. Quit calling him in, please. For God's sakes, let the man rest. He's done enough.
There's one other thing that I wanted to discuss on the national team side, Bart. U17s, you got to keep an eye on Nympha Berkemas. And he was raising all kinds of hell at Crown Legacy and MLS Next Pro, and now he's doing it again on the U17 level. I'm going to say this. Why do I feel like Charlotte's going to mess this up somehow and not get proper compensation when Berkemas is –
Name something Charlotte's done right in their time. So there's your answer. I mean – but look, hey, he's doing well. The 17s are doing well. Big match tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. against France.
Oh, it's actually at 7. It's not at 4.
Yeah, 7 a.m.
Man, watching the U17s, you got to be up at 4 a.m. for most.
Yeah, I haven't. I've watched the highlights. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I will not be getting up that early to watch it. I will watch the highlights. But hey, it's been good.
Now that we're at halftime, let's go to reffing down here. And the one thing that I wanted to start with reffing down here was and since it is the showdown of Maddy and Alex here. This is their showdown. It has to do with Newcastle and Arsenal. for reffing down here. And there's Jarrett's Irish goodbye. So we have Newcastle and Arsenal. I talked about this yesterday. A purported leaked recording has emerged of the video assistant referee review that failed to overturn a decision not to send Bruno Guimaraes for elbowing Jorginho in the head for Newcastle's win against Arsenal. PGMOL declined to comment on the authenticity of the audio that appeared to originate from the VAR hub at Stockley Park. It's 50 seconds long, and it's on the Reddits, which means we know it's absolutely true. Featuring a purported conversation between ref Stuart Atwell, VAR Andy Madley, and assistant VAR Stuart Burt. Emerged online less than 24 hours after the latest episode of the monthly television show Match Officials mic'd up. Aired footage of the VAR check of the Anthony Gordon goal at St. James Park a week and a half ago did not show the Guimaraes elbow, which both the Premier League Independent Key Match Incidents Panel and PGMOL Chief Howard Webb have since deemed a red card offense. Refereeing decisions in the game triggered the rant from Arteta, who branded the award of Gordon's goal an absolute disgrace. And in the recording with Guimaraes' clash with Jorginho, a voice said to be Madley's could be heard saying, "I'm just going to check potential serious foul play." Here's the rest of that alleged conversation. He goes into the player, so he lifts his arm up because he's going into the defender. Just have to look at this for me, Stu, meaning Stu Burt. For me, he sees the player. He puts his arm up. There's a glancing blow from the side, but for me, that's not used as a weapon. That's not violent conduct. Are you happy with that as well? Burt replied, yeah, it's not nice, but I don't think it's any more than a yellow card. Madley then adds, it doesn't reach the threshold, Stuart. It's check complete, check complete. So that's allegedly how it went through on Guimaraes going through Jorginho. So apparently they looked at it, did not deem it serious foul play, and that's why they were allowed to play on. Bart, as the Arsenal person in this conversation of Arsenal v. Newcastle, what do you think about that particular play and then the analysis allegedly here with how they went through it and walked through it in 50 seconds?
So I'm going to try to be a referee and not an Arsenal fan.
You want to take it both ways, you can. Just as long as you tell me which one.
I still think it's really hard to get around how it's not serious foul play because it's not really necessary within the realm of playing soccer, you know? And that's where I look at this. It's like, oh, it's just a yellow card. No, it's not. That is serious foul play. That's not a careless foul. It's not a reckless foul. It's not unsporting. It's nothing of that. If you're going to put your elbow, your forearm into someone's head, we are looking at potential serious foul play. There's no other option. And again, I think the problem continues to be not VAR, but PGMOL and the fact that British, specifically English referees are just not good. I'm sorry. They're just not. They continually outthink themselves. And that's been the problem. Because England and the English think that they have done everything they do that involves soccer is the absolute best, the most correct, the purest, the only way to do it. They hold things to a standard that makes no sense. They talk themselves out of things that make no sense. And putting a forearm into someone's head should rise to serious foul play. But because they're English, it's just proper football, isn't it? You know? And again, they are the problem for themselves. VAR doesn't have these issues regularly throughout the rest of the world. But this little tiny island that can't get off its own, you know, they think not even the tiny island, part of a tiny island.
Can't get off its own arse?
Thinks that they know better than everyone else.
Yep. Yeah,
man. Wordplay. I like that.
Yes.
All that great, you know, all the greatness of English soccer, and they've got one World Cup to show for it. So congratulations. You've done something right by hosting it in 66. That's all you've done right in your entire career.
So, yeah, I don't know. As a Newcastle fan, even just now, I was shocked it wasn't a red card. Like, it's not like it in any other situation, it would have been. Because, like, what's the point in it? You know, you're going up and it's an elbow right there. Like, there's no point to it. Like, I think it's weird, especially hearing the conversation, like, oh, like, I don't think it was foul play. I'm like, are you I'm like, were we watching the same thing?
Yeah.
Because like in no other realm is it like a player's going to go up and do something and this is appropriate. So I was shocked it wasn't, and I think that they brushed it off. And I, as a Newcastle fan, listen, but I also do pride myself. I try to be a little bit realistic when it comes to it, and I was shocked it wasn't a red, and I think it should have been.
Now, Bart, let me go through yet another element here. Just saw this morning. Women's Champions League games. Another element attached to this. UEFA has insisted there are significant technical, operational, and logistical challenges to implementing VAR at all Women's Champions League games following calls for its more widespread use after refereeing mistakes marred by Chelsea's 2-2 draw at Real Madrid. The incoming U.S. women's national team manager, currently still at Chelsea, Emma Hayes, said her side had been, quote, robbed of a 3-1 victory by two humongous decisions, her quotes, which she described as embarrassing. First saw her side concede an unjustified, and this is the writing from Sean Engel at The Guardian. Hayes first saw her side concede an unjustified penalty when Chelsea's Jessie Fleming fouled a player outside the box that was converted to make the game 2-2. Then in the 95th, the referee disallowed what would have been a winner from Niamh Charles for offside against Sam Kerr, even though the Australian was not interfering with the play. UEFA spokesperson refused to be drawn on whether the refereeing team would be stood down or spoken to, but said all matches and officials were routinely assessed after the game. Spokesperson also said that while UEFA did intend to eventually bring in VAR for all Women's Champions League games, and not just the latter stages as it currently stands, it was not possible to do so yet.
They were playing this where again?
Well, where was the Chelsea match with Real Madrid? Where was that? That would be my first question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was
Alfred at the
Real Madrid.
Yeah, the Estadio Alfredo Di Stefano was where it was.
Right. In Madrid, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I mean, I understand it's not Bernabeu. I get it, but that technology exists in Madrid, literally like right next door. So I think that's a little bit of a cop out from UEFA. A bit meaning a whole lot of a cop out.
the underselling by Bart.
Because I mean, the solution here to me just continues to be that you need to force the Women's Champions League to play in the best stadium that they have at that club. And I know that could cause some issues, but why not have that match played in the 82,000 or whatever it is now stadium that has cameras everywhere and uses VAR regularly? Same as with Chelsea, it needs to be played at Stamford Bridge where they have this technology. So I understand not every club that's playing in the UEFA Women's Champions League is playing in a stadium like that, because I know Rosenborg specifically doesn't. But most of them still are connected to a men's club with a large stadium, and that should be the standard. It's a problem, but I think when you're looking for excuses, you're going to find them.
Yeah. Tail end of the article, Maddy says, while the cost of VAR and the lack of revenues in the women's game are partly behind UEFA's approach, European football's governing body is also understood to believe that it does not yet have enough officials of sufficient quality to run the system.
The math isn't mathing. I don't understand. To me, it just seems like, and I don't want to place the blame, but to me, it just seems like they don't want to invest in it because they deem that it's not the men's, it's the women's. And that just, to me, that's what it seems like, that they just don't want to push that forward. And I think that's wrong. And I honestly didn't even think about it from Bart's perspective. Yeah, play it in a stadium that has the capabilities to do it. It's not that difficult. I'm like, people have fans that they're going to go to where the stadium is. And I think that VAR has been doing a lot more help than it has harm. And I don't understand why it's not being implemented in that way. To me, it does seem like a cop-out, and it's kind of wrong that it is, because, why would you not want that? And to say you don't have the right officials for it.
That line to me was bullshit, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Maddy. they don't have a problem finding the correct amount of officials for the men's Champions League.
Oh yeah, they don't have a problem with that, but it's finding for the women.
Is it a different game?
Yeah.
Still
Listen.
the same surface area.
I mean, we saw this summer at the Women's World Cup a bunch of what I would do male officials, right? A lot of MLS officials were brought in because of their VAR experience for the Women's World Cup. And that's good. Do that. You have, I don't even know how many leagues at this point that use VAR. Most of the UEFA leagues use VAR in some capacity. So why don't you have, La Liga officials or Bundesliga or Serie A? Like, you're a UEFA certified referee, not a La Liga certified referee. So this isn't, there shouldn't be a problem, Yeah. And if it's about a training thing, well, that could be solved before the tournament happens,
Yep, exactly. I just no.
I mean, the biggest thing here is, once again, I get the idea of playing Chelsea and Real Madrid at Di Stefano because you don't think you're going to have butts in seats. But if Di Stefano's not wired for VAR, the easy decision would be to, yes, I know it would look like Red Bull Arena on any given MLS match day with the number of folks that would be in the building. But, I mean, go lower bowl, pack the lower bowl at the Bernabeu or wherever, and you got the place wired for VAR. And I'm sure that there's an official somewhere in, I don't know, maybe La Liga, who'd be kind of hanging out, in Madrid. Hey, you want to pick up an extra paycheck and be a VAR midweek on a women's match? Am I off here?
No, and that's what I'm saying too. I'm like, I don't think the idea of having not enough refs to do it, I think that's weird because, like, I mean, if you go to a ref and you're like, hey, you want to ref this match? They're not going to say no.
Right.
It's a paycheck.
And even with on-field officials, it really shouldn't be that big of an issue because, again, this is just a quick training session, that you go through before the tournament of, hey, this is the mechanics of VAR, right? And really, we complicate VAR. It's really not that complicated to trigger a VAR review, right? The video assistant referee is just communicating with the on-field center ref and the rest. And that's what it is, which you're already communicating with the three other officials on the field. So, it would take a little bit of training, but we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 just quick training sessions that they're already going to have to do because most of these times before these tournaments, you have some sort of centralized officials training, either a session or a Zoom call or whatever. It's just, again, it's a cop-out. When you look for reasons, you're going to find reasons.
It's like if UEFA wanted to spend the money, they could spend the money.
Yeah, UEFA notoriously short on cash.
Yes, yeah, the cash
money, like
cash-strapped UEFA, of course. All right, so Bart, what is your weekend going to be, sir?
Well, I'm going to be on a soccer field for all day tomorrow and Sunday because we've got tournament season. Woo! So that's where I'll be as refereeing out at Tysa. So
okay, yeah. All right, so that's where you'll see Bart. Maddie, are you going to be glued to your television watching things? Hopefully not behind paywalls. What's going on there?
Oh, absolutely. Probably going to be watching some of the MLS playoffs, just because I believe those start next week.
This is an international window. You got
international window. You're right. Well, I'll be watching some college football.
Okay.
I'll be watching all that. Georgia, Tennessee.
Who's West Virginia got, Bert?
Cincinnati. You got Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Are you bowl eligible?
We are bowl eligible. We have 6 wins.
Just checking. Are you going to your bowl game?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
Okay.
We'll see. Depends on where it is. If it happens to be the Orlando bowl game, which I don't think it will be, but it could be, maybe. If it's Memphis, definitely not. I don't want to go back to Memphis for a bowl game. Sorry, the Liberty Bowl is not that great of a stadium, and Memphis is not that cool of a city for me to go back to. I mean, and it'll be colder than here, so
that's true.
Not worth it.
I've shot games from the press area at the Liberty Bowl, and that is not fun because the wind comes at you in a circle anyway.
Yeah.
You're right on top of everything in the upper tank.
Yeah.
It's not.
And the way that stadium is built, it's like the wind specific. It makes the wind worse.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I
So,
don't like cold, so I wouldn't.
so basically, it's indoors for both of you, and I don't blame you one bit. I will be going to watch the underrated New Mexico State Aggies, probably without their starting quarterback Diego Pavia, collect almost $2.4 million to be a 28.5-point underdog against Auburn.
Oh, good for them.
Well, in New Mexico State, by the way, at 8-3, they are already in the Conference USA title game. And so, I bet when Auburn scheduled this, New Mexico State, bring them in. Yeah, you're bringing in a team that's 8-3 and it's already qualified for the Confusa Western Conference title. So, Western.
Hey, speaking of New Mexico, John, I don't know if you saw, but New Mexico United stadium deal got approved by the environmental committee. So that's pretty awesome.
I saw that. That was 8-1. So that's very, very cool.
So Albuquerque maybe getting a new stadium, and it will be a size for soccer. We love to see it.
Yeah, and it won't be, as much as I love the Lab, it won't be a baseball stadium. So that's what
as much as people talk pro rel. Sorry, I don't want to get into this too much, but maybe we should not have our teams playing in baseball stadiums before we talk about pro rel. That's just a thought.
Just a thought.
I know. There's my hot take in the morning.
And I have my thoughts as well. I'm here.
Let's see, but that's what we're here. It's an open exchange on the Fatal 4-Way to finish up your week. I'm trying to see what your number is, Bart. Trying to see. Okay, Cincinnati. Oh, so it's a home game. And okay. So this would be win number 7 for you. You're a 6.5-point favorite.
Yeah, we got to win.
And get-in price at Pusker is $38.
Yeah.
Listen, that's not bad.
I won't be there.
Yeah.
I won't be in Tennessee, so that I'm nervous for that game though.
No doubt. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us for the Fatal 4-Way, even though Jarrett gave us an Irish goodbye. Thanks for another round of reffing down here. Bart, when is the next, was it Tuesday?
Well, we'll hopefully record Tuesday so it can be out Wednesday. We'll see. Obviously, playing Monday does kind of inhibit that, and we're up against the Thanksgiving break as well. So it'll be a quick turnaround, but we're going to try to get it done.
All right. So then are you coming back on Tuesday? You coming back on Tuesday morning? Is that how this works?
I can do that.
All right. Yeah. Well, Tuesday at 10:30, Bart's coming on, and Maddy is going to in and around her class schedule and figure out when she can drop by.
I mean, I can drop by the same time. I think I don't have any plans. So
see, look what you've done, Bart. You've brought Maddy in to talk U.S. U.S. soccer for these segments now.
Watch out.
So, well, guys, have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you once again first of the week, and be safe, y'all.
Absolutely, you too.
Maddy Crews and Bart Keeler, thanks for hanging out. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what to watch before you go. Quickly, once again, thanks to busy show. Man, this was a busy show today. It was our friends at Lewiston High in Maine for winning a state championship on the boys' side 3 weeks after one of the most unspeakable tragedies ever. It's great to have them. Great to have Michael Parkhurst on. Great to have Duane Rollins on. Great to have Bart and Maddy on. Great to have Jarrett pop in. Busy show. It was a packed show, and can't thank all of them enough for hanging out with us today. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Brentford are confident Ivan Toney, who's been linked to Arsenal, will sign a new contract. Once again, control the asset. And Chelsea. But Toney, whose deal runs out in the summer of 25, wants to leave, will demand a release clause in any new deal. Manchester City will compete with Liverpool to re-sign Leroy Sané. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is expected to take guidance from Sir Alex as he undertakes an overhaul of the club. Crystal Palace and Fulham interested in a loan deal for RB Leipzig's Timo Werner, who has fallen out of favor. Barcelona midfielder Ilkay Gundogan's agent has dismissed speculation linking him to Galatasaray. That's from Mundo Deportivo. Arsenal open to letting Poland defender Jakub Kiwior leave the club on loan as he wants more first-team football. Chelsea could recall midfielder Andre Santos from his loan at Forest because of the lack of game time. Anthony Gordon not considering switching his international allegiance to Scotland despite missing out on Gareth Southgate's England squad for the Euro 2024 qualifiers. Southgate says Gordon, who helped England win the U21s in the summer, is close to a call-up to the senior squad. Manchester City have agreed to a £1.2 million deal to sign Leeds United's 15-year-old English attacking midfielder Finlay Gorman. Yeon-min Son has played down concerns he suffered an injury playing for South Korea and qualifying against Singapore. So that is your gossip, rumor, and innuendo before you go. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk about all this stuff again on Monday. Thanks to the cast of thousands that came in on probably one of the busiest shows we've ever had. And thanks to all of y'all for hanging out with us as well. Yes, we did go a little long. Probably could have gone along a lot longer, but you guys got the rest of your day. So once again, thanks for hanging out with us here at SDH. We'll be back at it again Monday morning, 9:05. Mucho plati, I'll play it safe. And since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. See you Monday morning.